Sometimes, the loudest person in the room isn't the strongest one. It's the calm one who refuses to be shaken. When everyone else loses their temper, the person who stays grounded, centered, and silent holds the real power. Calm isn't weakness, it's control, and control is what separates those who react from those who lead. When you stay calm in chaos, you're not just avoiding conflict, you're taking command of it. Most people think reacting fast means being strong, but in reality, it's the calm person who truly understands power. Calmness is not about doing nothing, it's about doing the right thing at the right time. When emotions run wild, logic disappears, and when logic disappears, mistakes follow. That's why the person who can stay centered while everyone else loses it becomes the one everyone eventually looks to for direction. When chaos hits, at work, at home, or any relationship, people panic. They shout, blame, defend, or withdraw. They act out of fear, ego, or insecurity. But you take a deep breath. You don't rush to respond. You don't feed the fire, you observe. Because you understand that reacting immediately isn't strength, it's surrender. It means you've given your emotions the steering wheel. But when you choose calm, you're saying, I decide what controls me, not my anger, not my frustration, not their behavior. That's what separates those who fall apart from those who rise above. Think about it, the calm person doesn't get dragged into other people's storms. When someone tries to provoke you, they're not really testing your intelligence, they're testing your emotional control. They want you to react because the moment you do, they win. But when you remain calm, you don't give them what they want. You protect your peace and keep your power. And that power is rare because calmness is not natural, it's trained. It takes self-awareness to know when your emotions are trying to hijack your words, your tone, your decisions. It takes maturity to pause when everything inside you wants to explode. Calmness is clarity. When you stay calm, you start to see things others miss. You notice patterns, motives, and opportunities hidden in the noise. You realize that half of the world's problems come not from what happened, but from how people reacted to it. The argument that never needed to happen. The deal that fell apart because someone took things personally. The friendship that ended because no one stopped to breathe before responding. Calm people win not because they're better, but because they think before they act. And calm doesn't mean emotionless. It doesn't mean you don't feel pain, anger, or disappointment. It means you feel all of it, but you don't let it control your response. You can still be passionate, you can still care deeply, but you choose to process before you speak. You don't let temporary emotions cause permanent damage. That's the real definition of strength. Think about the times you've lost your cool, the argument that got out of hand, the message you sent in anger, the words you couldn't take back. Every time you reacted without thinking, you probably felt justified in the moment, but regret followed soon after. Now think about the moments you stayed calm, when you didn't react, when you walked away, when you let silence speak. You didn't lose those moments, you won them. Because self-control is self-respect. The calmer you are, the more you tell yourself, I value my peace more than this argument. When everyone else is loud, calm stands out. It commands respect. You can walk into a heated room and without saying a word, change the energy just by staying centered. Because calm is contagious, just like anger is. When you're calm, people around you feel safer, more grounded. They start to match your tone. That's leadership. Leadership isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself so powerfully that others are influenced by it. Calmness also builds trust. People trust those who don't lose themselves under pressure. In business, in relationships, in life, calm people are the ones others want to follow because they bring stability. Anyone can steer a ship in smooth water. It's the calm captain who keeps it steady in the storm. But calm doesn't just happen. It's built through small daily choices. It's built when you pause before replying to a message that angers you. When you walk away instead of shouting back. When you remind yourself that not every opinion deserves your energy. It's built in silence, in reflection, in the moments you choose peace over proving a point. And here's something most people don't realize. Calmness doesn't mean you let people walk over you. It means you choose your battles wisely. You know when to speak and when silence will make the louder statement. You don't waste words trying to convince someone committed to misunderstanding you. You don't explain yourself to people who twist your words. You simply stay calm because you know time will reveal what truth cannot argue. Calmness is also a mirror. It shows you who you really are. When things go wrong, when people test your limits, that's when you see your real strength. Anyone can look composed when life is easy. But staying calm when everything feels unfair, that's when your character shows. The calm person has already decided, I won't let this moment make me someone I'm not. That's discipline. And in every situation, calm gives you leverage. Think about negotiators, leaders, teachers, parents. The ones who stay composed always gain more respect because calmness brings confidence and confidence brings credibility. The world follows calm because calm represents certainty. The truth is, chaos will always exist. People will always say things that push your buttons. Situations will always test your patience. But you can't control that. What you can control is how you respond. You can train your mind to pause, to breathe, to ask, is this worth my peace? 90% of the time, it isn't. And when you realize that, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. So next time you're in chaos, stop, breathe, don't let the situation pull you in, watch it from a distance. Notice how quickly people lose themselves when emotion takes over. And then remind yourself that's not going to be me. Because calm doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care too much about yourself to lose control. The person who can stay calm when everyone else loses it doesn't just survive the storm. They master it. They become the anchor others depend on, the steady hand that doesn't shake, the voice that doesn't tremble. And eventually, people begin to notice. They stop seeing you as quiet and start seeing you as powerful. Because in a world where everyone reacts, the one who stays calm reigns. Calm is not silence, it's strength under pressure. People often mistake calmness for weakness, as if staying quiet means you're afraid, or that not reacting means you don't care. But the truth is, calmness is one of the strongest responses you can give in a world that expects you to explode. It's easy to speak when you're angry, but it takes true strength to stay composed when everything inside you wants to shout. Calmness is not about shutting down, it's about showing that you're in control of your emotions, your words, and your energy. When you remain calm, you show that you've mastered something most people never will: emotional control. Anyone can be calm when things go their way. But when life starts testing you, when people disrespect you, when situations fall apart, that's when calm becomes strength. It's the kind of strength that doesn't make noise but makes an impact. You don't need to raise your voice to prove a point. Your control does it for you. You don't need to argue to be right. Your peace speaks louder than words ever could. Imagine two people in a heated argument. One is shouting, throwing words like weapons. The other is listening, composed, choosing every word carefully. Who seems stronger? The one shouting might feel powerful for a moment, but in reality, they've lost control. Their emotions are running the show. The calm one, though, they're still in charge. They're thinking, observing, calculating. They may not say much, but when they do, every word carries weight. Because calm gives power to your voice. People listen more when you speak less, but with control and confidence. Strength under pressure doesn't mean you never feel angry, scared, or hurt. It means you feel it all, but you don't let it make your decisions for you. You can be calm and still feel deeply. You can stay composed and still care. You just refuse to let temporary emotions cause permanent damage. That's what calm strength looks like. It's the choice to pause instead of react, to breathe instead of break, to wait instead of rush. There's a quote that says, "A calm sea never made a skilled sailor." The same is true for life. You don't develop calm strength in comfort. You develop it in chaos. You learn it when you've been pushed, provoked, misunderstood, and you still choose not to lose yourself. You build it when you've been disrespected, but you decide to respond with dignity, not aggression. Because the truth is, your reaction defines you more than their behavior ever will. Staying calm in those moments means you refuse to let someone else control your emotions. That's power, not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that governs yourself. Calm people understand that not every action deserves a reaction. They know that silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. When you don't react right away, you give yourself space to think clearly, to see the full picture, to respond with intelligence instead of impulse. People who stay calm under pressure often end up winning, not because they fought harder, because they thought smarter. They waited for the storm to pass before making their move. In relationships, staying calm changes everything. When someone raises their voice, your calm becomes their mirror. It reflects their chaos back at them. Eventually, they realize they can't fight with someone who refuses to join the fight. Calm disarms anger. It cools the fire. That's why strong people don't rush into emotional battles. They don't waste energy trying to convince people who are too angry to listen. They know that time and truth are the best teachers, and calmness allows both to do their work. At work, calm under pressure separates professionals from amateurs. In stressful situations, when deadlines hit or problems arise, everyone looks to the one who stays steady. Calm leaders make better decisions because they don't let panic cloud their judgment. They don't make moves just to feel in control. They make moves that actually solve the problem. Calm doesn't mean slow, it means steady. And steady always wins in the long run. The calm person has something others don't: emotional endurance. They can handle stress without falling apart. They can listen to criticism without instantly getting defensive. They can absorb tension and still stay clear-headed. That's because calmness comes from confidence. You only lose your cool when you feel threatened. But when you know who you are, what you stand for, and what's worth your energy, you stop reacting to everything. You start choosing. Calmness also protects your mental health. Every time you stay calm, instead of reacting, you save yourself from unnecessary stress. Anger, frustration, revenge, they all take energy. They drain you. Calmness, on the other hand, recharges you. It keeps your mind focused and your emotions balanced. It allows you to walk away with your peace intact. That's something no argument can give you. And here's the irony: the calm person often has the last word, not because they fight for it, but because people remember them. They remember the one who didn't lose control, who stayed level-headed when everyone else lost it. That kind of composure sticks in people's minds. It earns respect even from those who once tried to provoke you. Because deep down, people admire what they can't easily do themselves. Calmness is also a form of silent communication. It says, I'm not here to prove I'm right, I'm here to protect my peace. It says, your behavior won't change my character. It says, I know my worth, and I won't lower it by reacting to nonsense. That's the language of strength, quiet but powerful. And yes, there will be times when staying calm feels impossible, when someone crosses a line, when life feels unfair, when the pressure feels too heavy. But that's when calm matters the most. Because staying calm doesn't mean the situation is easy. It means you've decided not to let difficulty define you. You're not ignoring reality, you're managing it with grace. You're reminding yourself, I can't always control what happens, but I can always control how I respond. In the end, calmness is not the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. It's strength under pressure, grace in chaos, power in silence. The calm person doesn't need to prove themselves because their stability is their proof. And as you grow, you start realizing that calmness is the highest form of confidence. It's the quiet belief that you can handle whatever comes, not because it's easy, but because you've trained yourself not to break when things get hard. So when life tests you, remember this. Staying calm doesn't make you weak, it makes you unstoppable. Because real strength isn't about how loudly you can react, it's about how powerfully you can remain still. The moment you control your reaction, you control the outcome. Think about that for a second. Not the situation, not the words said to you, not the environment, but your reaction. That's the real turning point. Because life isn't about what happens to you, it's about how you respond to what happens. Every reaction is a choice, and that choice decides whether you keep your power or give it away. The truth is you can't control people. You can't control their moods, their opinions, or their actions. But you can always control yourself, and that's where real control begins. Every day you're tested by people, by stress, by disappointments, by life not going the way you planned. And every time something triggers you, you're faced with two options: react emotionally or respond intentionally. A reaction is instinct. It's fast, raw, and often destructive. A response is awareness. It's calm, measured, and powerful. The difference between the two determines whether you stay in control or hand over your peace to someone else. When you react, you're letting the situation win. You're saying, this thing, this person, this moment, it owns me right now. But when you pause and control your reaction, you take the power back. You're saying, I decide how this story goes. That pause, that 1 second between emotion and response, that's where your strength lives. That's where emotional intelligence begins. Most people miss that moment. They explode and then regret it later. But those who master that pause, who breathe before they speak, who think before they act, those are the ones who shape outcomes instead of being shaped by them. Think about how many conflicts could have been avoided if someone had just paused. How many friendships would still exist if someone had taken a moment to cool down before replying? How many opportunities would have stayed alive if emotions hadn't taken the wheel? The ability to control your reaction isn't just emotional maturity, it's life mastery. Because when you stay in control, you can steer the direction of almost any situation. Let's take an example. Imagine someone insults you publicly. The instant urge is to defend yourself, to clap back, to make them feel what you feel. That's the reaction. It feels satisfying for a moment, but then what? It escalates. It gives them power over your peace. But if you stay calm, if you choose silence or a simple smile, you disarm them completely. You make them question their behavior. Because now they realize they didn't control you. You controlled yourself. That psychological strength, the ability to stay centered while others are trying to throw you off balance. When you control your reaction, you also control perception. People remember not what happened, but how you handled it. They remember how you stayed composed when others were losing their temper. They respect the person who doesn't get dragged down by negativity. That's how leaders are recognized, not by how loudly they speak, but by how steadily they act when the world shakes. The calm responder always appears wiser even when they say less. It's also important to understand this. Controlling your reaction doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It doesn't mean pretending you don't care or bottling everything inside. It means managing your emotions with discipline. You can feel anger, disappointment, and hurt, but you choose not to live in them. You process them privately, not publicly. You respond with strength, not with impulse. Because reacting from emotion is like driving blind. You might move fast, but you'll crash hard. Every argument, every setback, every betrayal, they all come with a hidden lesson: control the controllable. You can't stop people from being unfair, but you can stop yourself from being consumed by it. You can't control how someone speaks to you, but you control whether you stoop to their level or rise above it. That's where freedom lies. The person who can control their reaction becomes untouchable, not because life stops testing them, but because they stop letting those tests define them. The calm responder also has something else: perspective. When you don't react immediately, you give your mind time to see the bigger picture. You realize most problems are temporary, most arguments are meaningless, and most provocations are just noise. When you step back instead of lashing out, you often see that your peace matters more than your pride. That awareness changes how you play the game. You stop chasing control over others and start mastering control over yourself. And something powerful happens when you do that. You begin to influence outcomes without force. When you stay calm, people listen differently. They feel your control even if they can't explain it. You shift the energy of the room just by being composed. The one who controls their reaction becomes the anchor everyone else looks toward when things go wrong. In personal relationships, controlling your reaction can save love, trust, and understanding. Arguments don't destroy relationships, uncontrolled reactions do. Because once you say something out of anger, it can't be unsaid. Once you do something impulsive, it can't be undone. But if you can hold your tongue, if you can pause and breathe even when it burns inside, you protect what truly matters. That's emotional maturity. Loving someone enough to respond with wisdom instead of pride. In leadership, this principle is everything. Great leaders are defined by how they handle chaos. When pressure builds, when the team panics, when things start to fall apart, the leader who controls their reaction keeps everyone together. They don't deny reality. They just don't let emotion lead the way. Their calm is contagious. It gives others permission to breathe. That's how trust is built, not through perfection, but through presence and composure. Even in failure, controlling your reaction determines what comes next. You can react with frustration and quit, or you can respond with curiosity and learn. The reaction ends the story, the response rewrites it. Every setback can either be a breakdown or a breakthrough. The difference is your reaction. And yes, there will be moments when your control is tested beyond what feels humanly possible. When someone betrays your trust, when plans collapse, when life feels unfair, those are the hardest moments, but also the most defining ones, because in those moments, your reaction decides who you become next. Do you become bitter, or do you become wiser? Do you let anger write your story, or do you take back the pen? Controlling your reaction is about taking ownership of your emotions, your peace, and your growth. It's about refusing to let temporary chaos create permanent consequences. It's understanding that the first thought that comes to your mind doesn't need to be the first one that leaves your mouth. The strongest version of you is not the one that reacts fast, it's the one that responds slow. So next time life throws something at you, pause, feel it, breathe through it, and then decide how to respond, because when you control your reaction, you're no longer a victim of the situation, you're the author of the outcome. And in that moment, you realize the truth power isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself, and the one who masters that controls everything.